who has this particular event in the gospel. And if you were listening to the readings, which I hope you were, Sandy read from Isaiah. And Isaiah talks about that, about people coming from the east. And the song that James sang to us, talks about that too. About these wondrous people, mysterious people coming from the east. Now, if you were to look at a map of the Middle East, they probably came from the area of Persia, which would be Iran today. And that's a long trek. They would, if they go directly, they go Iran through Jordan and across the Jordan River into Israel and down to Bethlehem. And they're going to have difficult terrain to do that. A longer way with less difficulty terrain-wise would be to go through Iraq into Syria and into across the hills at Hebron and then down through into Israel that way. So no matter what journey they would take, what route they would take, it would be very difficult for them. And they're riding on camels, and I've ridden on a camel briefly. I'm not so sure I'd want to make a really long journey on a camel, but they did that. That's a long journey. And I raise that geographic point. It's quite significant because you couldn't do that today. In fact, you cannot fly from Tehran to Tel Aviv, the main Israeli airport is. The politics prevent you from doing that. You can fly from Tehran to Damascus, but you can't fly from Damascus to Tel Aviv. The politics don't allow you to do that, and vice versa. Now you can fly from Tehran to Amman, and from Amman to Tel Aviv. No, you can't fly from Amman to Tel Aviv. You have to cross the river. And your documents are really looked at, so can you imagine 3 mysterious people from Iran trying to cross into Israel today? The state of the world. It'd be pretty difficult. And it's just something to consider. There's no secret message in terms of all of that. I think the message Matthew brings to us, that there are several issues here. Number one, and not necessarily in order of importance, why does he talk about Herod in this? And notice one of the statements. Herod called the Magi secret. He speaks to them in secret. Now, for us who've grown up in a world of spy movies and the Cold War and stuff like that, meeting in secret seems to be acceptable politically and et cetera, et cetera. But in the Middle East, certainly in ancient times, meeting important people in secret meant that you were plotting. So Matthew is showing the people that Herod is somebody who is plotting. And the historian, if you read the history of the time period by the historian Josephus, he talks a lot about Herod as a plotter and not, doing a lot of ill will towards the people. And we know that from the slaughter of the innocents, which occurs shortly after this. The other thing is, what's the symbolism behind the 3 figures coming? What's this all about? Many scholars, theologians say, well, this is an example right off the bat that Jesus' message is not just for Israel, it's for everyone, because the Magi represent the outside world. And that's a good message. I think if we dig deeper, we see something else. They came to see Jesus. And it was a very difficult journey for them. They had to overcome many obstacles. And I think there's the real message for us today, is that in getting to Jesus, we have to overcome obstacles, challenges. And there are many challenges that we have to overcome. And the three magi together were able to support each other in their journey. Because I'm not so sure one of them could have made it on his own. There had to be days in their journey when one said, I don't think I can go on. The other like, yeah, you can, man, come on. There's something, we gotta fulfill this. So it's like a small family supporting each other in that regard to get there. And when they get there, they see this wonder. You know, here's this baby who's bringing into the world tremendous power. There's the light in the sky. There's a king who's befuddled and wants to get rid of him but doesn't know how to. Can't find him. The Magi can find him. The shepherds can find him. The animals can find him. See, almost everybody else but Herod can find him. And he has all at his disposal. He still can't do it. But the Magi can. And some theologians suggest that, well, gold, frankincense, and myrrh means that the wealthy also bowed down before Jesus. And there's something to that too. Frankincense, the incense burned was very expensive. It wasn't burned in the shepherds' hovels. It would be in Herod's palaces. Myrrh was a very precious perfume that was used to anoint the bodies of the wealthy when they went to social events. Myrrh as the perfume. Later on in the gospel, we hear of a woman anointing Jesus' feet. Judas gets anointed and said, "Look, you could have. That ointment cost a lot of money." Well, that was probably myrrh. I don't have to tell you about gold. Right? So, there's a message in that as well for us. John Suk, in his book, I can't remember the title, but he talks about questioning faith. And many scholars and theologians and so on have wondered about this. Did this really happen? Historically, I can't prove it. The historian Josephus, who is one of the more reliable ones for this time period, doesn't mention this whatsoever. But scripturally, I can prove it, because you just had some of the proof today. It's there. And we know that Jesus and Mary and Joseph do flee to Egypt. And we've often talked about that flight into Egypt in the past. And again, just for something to think about, how did they get into Egypt? And what did how did they survive when they got there? Well, the gold they had probably helped them. They may have had to bribe some soldiers to get in there. We don't know. But certainly when they got there to live, to get established, they needed money. Joseph didn't have much money. Mary didn't have any money. So where did the money come from? Interesting. So there's a lot to this. It's not just a nice, pretty little story of the Magi coming to worship. And, again, as a history and politics teacher, I love this story. I really do. Because you have Persians and Israelis, Iranians and Jews, Muslims and Jews, whatever mixtures you want to take from the Middle East, working together here, worshiping together. The Magi aren't Christians. Religion isn't off the ground yet, we know that. They're not Jews. They may have been probably connected to Zoroaster, I'm not sure, we don't know. But you can even say this is the first great multicultural, interreligious, denominational gathering of people, is this particular event. So if you're ever the optimist, right? One of my students say, she said, a starry-eyed optimist, idealist. Mr. O'Dwyer, you're a starry-eyed idealist. I said, well, thank you. Yes, I am. So as a starry-eyed idealist, this is a great story. And it's a great inspiration to us, too. That they were willing, as I said, to take this journey, to make this journey, to do this. So in our own faith journeys, keep this story in mind. And along the way, we all know, in our close-knit crisis-serving community, we know that there are difficulties along the way. Not one of us can say, you know what, I've never had a problem in my life. Everything's been great, smooth. That's not the case. But we get better and we grow when we meet those challenges. We grow so much that when we connect with Jesus, we open our hearts up, just like the Magi did. We know. And suddenly the way becomes clear. Just as it did for the Magi for their return.